Hello everybody. Today's video is going to be exceptionally pertinent to many of us. On a personal level, this video has taken a lot of courage for me to bring up all the science and the material that I've gathered over the years, both through my own readings and through personal experience, which I'll like to bring forth such that you can get some practical ideas out of what I have to share with you. Please allow me to share my screen with you because that will help us understand the significance of the topic which we are going to be talking about today, which is essentially the impact of relationships on our health. And what are the things that no one is talking about? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dr. Arun Dhir. I'm a university professor and I'm also a member of many organizations. But what is more important is that I have got no claims to be a relationship coach or somebody who can advise you on what you should and should not be doing. So please, as I've mentioned in my previous videos, take the best and leave the rest. I think what prompted this video really was the multiple patients that I have seen time and time again, where I would find this disconnect between their outsides and their inside. Let me call it the outside-inside gap. And I'll explain this to you by virtue of a very brief 4-line story. As you can see, that this individual looked really fine on the outside. Everything seemed to be going well for them. But inside, something was happening. There was no symptoms, there was no complaints, everything was going great, and then a sudden heart attack, and that is the end of story. Now, the point that I'm trying to make here is that this video, even though it has been made on relationships, I have mostly men in mind that I'm addressing this to. But I would urge women to take this information with equal seriousness because it might affect the men that they have in their lives. I also want to be clear that I do not want to discriminate people based on their gender preferences. This is given with love. The information here is delivered with a sense of care and concern. So please take it in that spirit. In 2023, the famous television channel CNBC in America published that the number of avoidable deaths in the country looked something like this. In the United States, per 100,000 males, there were 337 deaths which could potentially be avoided. And the number for Australia, based on the size of the country, is not that far. It is 178. Now, the question becomes is, where do relationships play a role in deciding our overall health and well-being? And I think the way I want to kind of break down this topic is really based on science on one side and based on the soul, which is the feeling bit on the other side. I think the key element to understand is that there is hidden power in human connections. Relationships influence our ability to get mental clarity. They affect our immune status and also our longevity, as I'll be sharing with you in a moment. We are hardwired to stay connected as human beings. We seek meaningful social connections. And I think when these social ties are taken away from us, we realize that it adversely affects our overall health and well-being. Equally, for those of us who know how it is to be in a toxic relationship, we know it as a recipe for toxic health. We know that it increases our inflammation levels in the body, which can be measured using CRP. It impacts our mental health, bringing on depression, anxiety, and even gut health. And I think it has been very well said that staying in the wrong relationship perhaps is sometimes more damaging than being alone. And this data is coming from research that was done by Monash University, which I'll touch upon very briefly. It actually showed that close friends and family can reduce the risk of death by heart disease by up to 30%. Monash University, a well-known university in Melbourne, did this ASPRE trial in individuals over 70 years of age. And this is the link that you can check it out. And they found out four key things. Number one, being married and partner was good for your longevity. Being close to 3 to 8 relatives that you could call on in times of health reduced your cardiovascular disease risk by 24%. Engaging in competitive social activities like playing chess or cards led to 18% reduction in your risk of death. And a man with 3 or 8 relatives who he could call to discuss private matters reduced the risk by almost 30%. And I think these are real critical figures to understand that once again, it's reiterating the power of relationships. See, love and health is more than just a feeling. We know that loving, secure relationships help you reduce your blood pressure, reducing the risk of heart disease. Happy marriages lower cholesterol or your cortisol levels, and they improve the immune function. And just the physical act of touching induces this love hormone called the oxytocin. In fact, it has been very clearly said, as you can see in this particular slide, that get your dose of happiness by these four hormones: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphin. Now, dopamine gets a bit of a bad name currently because we all talk about the dopamine kick when we are playing video games or getting likes on our posts on social media. But the essence is that the dopamine actually plays a key element in your level of happiness and joy. Oxytocin, as I've just said, is the love hormone. Endorphin gets talks about mostly when you exercise, they get released. And serotonin, once again, another happy hormone, is kind of being generated by your gut, which is the largest reservoir. So let's come back to men's health in particular, because I think the essence of this particular video, even though it is about relationships, I do want to talk about men's health because it is a silent epidemic that I have seen personally in my own practice in various shades. It's not just about cholesterol or smoking, which men engage in. I think the deeper issue is that of disconnection, boredom, and feeling broken. And this is what triggers this invisible decline. Statistics tell us, the World Health Organization health estimates tell us that men die younger than women globally by at least 5 to 6 years. 70% of the men don't seek help for mental health issues. Why? Because we have been trained as kids to bottle up these emotions. Now, these are very important statistics because we blame it either on our genetics or on biology, being masculine and being sort of, behavioral issues. But the essence of the matter is that it is leading to a subtle and a slow erosion. And you can see this, that the life expectancy by gender from birth for United States, going from 1795 all the way to 2014, our life expectancy is clearly exceeded. But look at the gender inequality between women and men. And partly you can blame it on the risk-taking behavior, the occupations and the profession. But there is a lot to be said about the inability of men to seek help when they need it the most. And that's where the essence of broken relationships and health starts to play in. We know that men would rather resort to some sort of an addiction like smoking or alcohol or whatever it may be in order to overcome their loneliness. Whereas research tells us that loneliness is as harmful as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Also, breakdown of relationships such as divorces, estrangement, and social isolation spikes stress hormones, which likely increase the cortisol levels and weaken the immunity. And very importantly, men often invest their identity in being a provider, being a partner or protector, because that's kind of like ingrained in our genes, we are wired that way. But when that breaks down, they can't handle that. And that's when it starts to impact on their health. I mean, I was kind of, reading a book recently, and it said that a man who's lost his marriage or connection with his kids often loses more than the family. He loses a reason to care for himself because they feel without purpose. And that's where I think it's pertinent to talk about social isolation, which is a very subtle but a new epidemic in our society. And it's rather strange because we are in a hyper connected world in this social media, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. And loneliness, as I just shared with you, rivals obesity and smoking in its risk of mortality. And very importantly, single or socially isolated individuals are at higher risks of substance abuse, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease, and even early death. So I guess the question becomes, how do we start to address this? The connection, I think it's important to understand that connection is not just nice to have, it's actually essential for us to thrive. So we got to take it with that level. And I'm not saying get desperate and straight away sign up on some social sort of, social, I should say, apps of that sort, to sort of connect with other people. No, but I'm just saying that it's about recognition, because I think this behavior of isolation or the feeling of loneliness, there is underlying, it's like an iceberg. You can't see things on the inside which are under the surface. There is a trigger, there is a wound, and there is an unmet need. So I think there is always a lot below the surface that needs to be unpacked. It is really important, and again, coming back to men, that self neglect is the silent saboteur. Because what it is doing is it's silently eroding the individual, like missed checkups, skipped workouts, poor sleep, alcohol abuse. Again, one of those things that is coming up. Also, chronic stress leading to inflammation. We discussed in one of our other videos as well that chronic stress from past unprocessed trauma increases the risk of obesity, visceral fat gain, and also conditions such as type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, erectile dysfunction, and of course, mental health issues. Self-neglect is not just laziness, it's actually a symptom of loss of purpose. And I can tell you, hand on heart, I have been in that state. I can tell you that it is not a pleasant state to be in. But you got to feel that state. As they say, there is a term called post traumatic growth. You need to know that, when you were at the lowest level with knowledge and information, you can begin to change it. And that's when you need to find your purpose. When men stop to believe that they matter, they stop showing up for themselves. And I think the way forward is about doing or starting to do a few different things with which you can rebuild and reconnect. So here are some practical ideas that I can share with you, which will allow you to start to shift this needle on your own health and well-being. And by health and well-being, I don't mean just your physical looks. It has to be the mind, the body, and the soul. So what can you do? Number one, you can start creating a safe space for yourself. Encourage men's groups, fitness communities, go and connect with people. Secondly, rethink masculinity. It's not just about building muscles. It's actually about understanding that sometimes being vulnerable, being able to share your own challenges with somebody does not make you a weak person. Regular health checkups, visiting your GPs, especially after 40, getting your blood test done, just like you get your car serviced, you go and get your checkups done. And the last and perhaps the most important is purpose mapping, understanding that, well, what is your life's purpose? When you reconnect with your hobbies, you're learning, you meet new people, you share your vision, your goals, your ideas with them, that is what leads to not only personal growth, but in service to others. When you serve others, your needs get taken care of automatically. Also, connection plays an important part, as we have been talking about here. Healthy relationships are the best form of therapy. They are the best form of preventative medicine. Be intentional, be clear about who you wish to connect with, who you wish to bring in your life. Ending toxic relationships is difficult, I understand, especially when they are in your life, but you can still create healthy boundaries. And also by seeking meaningful sort of connections with your mentors, professionals who are able to help you develop those boundaries is very essential. And joining communities like fitness communities, volunteering, creative hobbies are really critical part of getting more intentional. Last and perhaps the most important is love, empathy, and purpose are life extending forces. I believe that a man with purpose is a man with real power. Not the brute kinds, but the kind that builds a life worth living. Now, here I want to remind you that if you are watching this, regardless of whether you are, a male or a female, doesn't matter. I think it is important to recognize that the most important thing over here is that maybe it is your brother, your dad, your mate, or maybe it's you. Your health is not a luxury. It is not a selfish pursuit. It is the foundation of everything else: love, leadership, or legacy. Talk to someone, book that checkup, build that bridge, because I believe that you matter. The question is, do you believe so? And in the words of Kobe, if you don't believe in yourself, no one will do it for you. So take care, friends. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I want you to please reflect on the things that we just discussed, and please do share your comments, your thoughts in the section that is provided over here below. Please do let me know what your thoughts are, any ideas, and which of the practices you put into practice. All the best. You take care, and I'll see you at my next video.